Yesterday, we began talking about this form of the equation. It's called the point-slope form, okay? So in the very name of those forms, we see that equation. For example, if it's slope-intercept form, you have the slope and you have the y-intercept. So in this form of the equation, it's called the point-slope form because if we know a point on the line, it doesn't have to be any particular point, any point on that line, and we know the slope, we can use this form to write an equation of that line. And this fits in with our standard that says that we can find key features when we graph lines or quadratics. Right now we're just talking about lines, either by hand or using technology. And it also helps us to find those key features like intercepts. And later on, when we're talking about quadratics, we'll be talking about maximums and minimums. So this is the equation. And we talked about that yesterday. We even looked at this example. So you'll see that example in part one of the video. And we went ahead and did this one as well yesterday. So I want to go to a third example today. Now, this is example 3. So it's got a few more words to it, a little bit more depth here. It says, Paul wants to place an ad in a newspaper. Now, the newspaper charges $10 for the first 2 lines of text and $3 for each additional line of text. Paul's ad is 8 lines long. How much will the ad cost? Now, we didn't just stop there with the word problem, although we could have, and you could have done this from there. But we're going to go on, and they're going to give us a little more information. Let X represent the number of lines of text. Let Y represent the total cost in dollars, Y being our D-dependent variable, right? I mean, our cost is dependent on the number of lines of text. Because 2 lines of text cost $10, that point is the point 2, 10. In other words, my x-coordinate, 2 lines, is costing us $10. There's a point. And the rate of change in the cost is $3 per line. So the slope is $3. So write an equation in point-slope form. Well, one of the first things I would encourage you to do is to write down a few important things. First of all, I would go ahead and on your paper, I would encourage you to write down that the slope here, the rate of change, and they tell us that, is 3. Okay? And also it includes this point, 2, 10. Okay? That information is vital because remember, in point-slope form, if we have a point, we have the slope, we can write an equation. Now I mentioned to you already that the way I would go about this, before I do anything, knowing I'm going to use this form, I'm going to kind of write down the point-slope form of the equation and write down the parts I know that never change. Y minus equals, I'm going to put the slope in there in front of the parentheses, x minus, close parentheses. I'm going to do that every time. Because then all that's left to do is turn around and put the values that I was given. For example, the slope is 3. The slope will always go here. And then my y value is 10, so I put it here. And notice, we observed this yesterday, that in point-slope form, the values, the points, look kind of like they're opposites. Because my y value is not negative 10, but when I put an equation, it's going to kind of look like negative 10. So you got to understand that that point is reversed in the equation, in its loop. And x will go here, okay? If those had been x plus 10 when we get through writing the equation, then we know the point's actually the opposite, negative. So in this case, we've written the line, we've written an equation in point-slope form. That's it. And we can do more to that. We can manipulate it. We can multiply it. We can take it, convert it to slope-intercept form if we wanted to. And if we did that, we're just solving it for y. But in this case, all it was asked to do was write the equation in point slope form. So therefore, I'm done. That's all there was to it. Let's look at another example. And you want to be sure that you've got these examples in your notes so that when you do the assignment in a few minutes, you'll have something to look back on, something to say, hey, that's how we did it. Now I can figure it out from here. So we want to write an equation here in point slope form for this line. And we actually have 2 points, don't we? Well, understand, in order to use point slope form, we need a point and we need a what? Slope. Yeah, that's why they call it point slope form. What we don't have is the slope. We've got 2 points. We just need 1, 2, even better. How do we find the slope? Well, we know how to find the slope. That's just the rate of change. And we know that is my change in y is 1 minus 4, or my change is in x, 3 minus 2. Okay? I know how to do that because I've been doing that for a long time now. And my formula for slope is just subtract y's over subtracting x's. That's it. Change in y over change in x. That's all I have to remember. 1 minus 4 is a negative 3 in my numerator. 3 minus 2 is 1 in my denominator. So if it's negative 3 over 1, my slope is actually just negative 3. So I need that information. Slope-intercept form. Here we go. I'm going to write down now y minus equals parentheses x minus. Okay? We'll do that every time. And so if I put the slope of negative 3 in there, I'll put it here if we're going. Then I can pick either of the 2 points. Okay? And either one of those will work. So I can put in here 4 and 2. Or I could, if I wanted to, use the other point, and it's still right. So the other point looks like this. Okay? And that could be 1. Either way, it will work. And you're like, well, Mr. Roberts, those are 2 very different looking equations, right? Well, they are. However, if I go and I distribute and I simplify and I solve it for y, I'll get the exact same equation. You may not believe me, but that's true. Let me show you. Okay. Let's look at the red equation first. That would be the Republican equation.
I'm Republican.
But they left. Okay, thanks. And so we're going to start with the red one first. Okay. All right. So I distribute negative 3 times x, negative 3 times negative 2. So it's y minus 4 equals negative 3x plus 6. Okay. Then I add 4 to both sides because I'm solving for y. So it's y equals negative 3x plus what? 10.
Where'd you get 6 from?
Negative 3 times negative 2.
Oh, I was so
Is 6. I have to distribute. That's a good question. Yeah, good question. So y equals negative 3x plus 10. Okay, let's go to the Democratic equation. All right, so it's y minus 1. So I'm going to distribute negative 3 through there. So it's y minus 1 equals negative 3x plus here now 9. Now, in order to solve for y, I add 1 to both sides, right? That's what I do. And so it's negative 3x plus 10. What do you notice about those 2 equations? They are the same. Yeah. And so either point will give us an equivalent equation, even though if you just leave it in point slope form, it might look different. They're still the same. Okay? And in either answer, if I ask you to give it to me in point slope form, either answer is correct. Questions on that? All right, let's look at one more example here. Now, in this example, I have a graph. Remember, we look at these things in terms of charts, tables. We look at them in terms of word problems, look at them in terms of equations, and we can also look at them in terms of graphs. And so the important thing to know here is I have 2 points. What are those 2 points? Write down there quick on the graph.
5, 10, and 8.
Yeah, so I'm gonna write that down before I even read the problem, okay? I know that this is on the graph and this is on the graph, okay? Cool. Now, gas station has a customer loyalty program. The graph shows the amount Y dollars that the 2 members paid for X gallons, okay? So in other words, because you're a good customer, you pay probably less than if you're a person who shows up out of town or something. So we're going to use an equation in point slope form to find the amount a member would pay for 22 gallons. By the way, 22 gallons would be, right here it tells us that X is gallons. So when we get ready to do that, we're going to let X be 22. That's what that means. And Y is what? Well, Y is the cost. Y is the amount of dollars that we're going to spend, okay?
Well,
So in order to write an equation,
why always be dependent?
yes, yeah. Y is a dependent variable, always. X is independent. Yeah. Good question. So in order to write point slope form, we got to have a point. What else do we have to have? Let me say that again. In order to write point slope form, we have to have a point. And what else do we have to have? Slope. Thank you. And so we don't have a slope, do we? But we can find the slope really easy. We can just figure that out by subtracting our y's. 49 minus 10, which is 30. And 18 minus 5, which is 13. And then 39 divided by 13, I believe, is 30. You might want to check my math on that. So my slope is 3. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to write an equation in point slope form. Which point do you think would be best to use? 5 and 10 or 18 and 49?
Wait, what's the question?
I'll ask it one more time. What? Somebody say something? Which point do you think would be better? Well, I can, I can use either point. I can use 5 and 10, or I can use 18 and 49. Which do you think would be the better one to use?
Just 5 and 10, because it's shorter.
Yeah, I would choose 5 and 10 because those numbers are small. Okay? That's what I would do. You can do it with the other one, it'll work, but you're going to have to be multiplying and working with much larger numbers. So to write the equation, I'm just going to write down the y minus equals x minus. And I need to put a y value down. That one would be 10 here. My slope is 3, and my x value is 5. Okay. So I've been asked to find how much it would cost if I pay for 22 gallons of gas, and I've told you to let X be 22, right? Yes, ma'am.
So I have this equation right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what, actually this one? What do all these mean? Can you tell me so I can write it down so I know what to put in?
Let me come back to that, okay? So, y minus 10 equals 3 times x minus 5. Now, if I want to find out how much 22 gallons cost, then all I have to do is this. I'm going to put 22 in for x, and then solve. Okay? So if I do that, it becomes 22 minus 5. What's 22 minus 5? Come on, 22 minus 5.
17.
17, did you do it with a calculator or did you just look on the board? Okay, it's 17, I believe. You might want to double check me, I might make a mistake. 3 times 17 then is, well, 3 times 7 is 21, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 would be 51. I believe. And you really might ought to double check me.
It is.
And then I need to finish solving this, add 10 to both sides, right? That's the way I would solve the equation. So
Yeah.
y is equal to 51 plus 10. So y is equal to 61. So I need to summarize that. 22 gallons of gas would cost $61 in this loyalty program. So that's all I have to do with it. So I can take that point slope form and I can use it to create equations. And once I can create an equation, I can take that equation and solve lots of questions.
Where did you get
Come up with
the
lots of
22
answers.
at?
Yes, ma'am?
Where did you get 22 at? Is it just in the problem?
Yeah, remember earlier in the problem, I scroll back up here, it said to find 22 gallons of gas, and I said that means let X be 22. So yeah, the 22 came from that. So that I had to summarize. Basically, I'm going to put it in English and summarize what I found. Right, so that's all there is to it. Point, slope, form. You need a point, you need the slope, and you can write an equation of a line.